Hey YouTubers, it's RcMike. Here we are with a new drill that we just got. This is the Fanttik. This has been out for a little while, but anyway, for RC car purposes, which is what we're going to use it for, we're going to try this out because of some of the features that it has. And here's the manual. Comes with this little refrigerator magnet, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, it comes in this box, which is kind of neat. It's a nice little kind of toolbox kind of looking thing to keep everything organized. And then you've got some tools and stuff in here. For our purposes, generally we don't use really any of these. Maybe the number 2 Phillips and maybe this little driver. The drill comes with this USB to Type-C charger. So we'll get the drill out. Some of the features that I like about this drill is it's got variable speed, and which is kind of nice when you're trying to put a screw into, a piece of plastic that you're not wanting to strip out. It's also got a little light on the end, which is kind of neat if you were to use it in like a dark space. To get it to go back and forth, there's just a button on the back, which this little arrow here indicates whether it's going forward or backwards. Torque setting is the button on top, which the only thing that I see that is a little bit of a potential issue is if you were on torque, say, setting 2 and you wanted to go back to 1, you got to toggle through all the settings back to 1. So that part's a little bit possibly annoying, but in most cases we're going to be on torque setting 1. So what's nice about this chuck is it retains the tip, whereas some of the drivers that I do use, like this particular drill, which this has been my go-to. This also has a variable speed trigger, which is really nice, and the tip just drops in there. But when you try to pull the screw out, sometimes this will just pop out of there, which is kind of annoying. And if you were to, say, drill a hole or something, say if you were to put a bit like this in there and you were to drill and it was to get stuck, when you pull it back it just kind of pops out, and then you try to pull the drill bit out and it slides right off the. So this Fanttik, I'm hoping, will sort of rectify that, so it's attached in there so you can drill into something and pull back and it's not going to pop out of there. And then when you go to pull it out, it will sometimes want to pull out of the collar, whereas this one, we can pull on it and it retains the tip. And in order to get it out, you just pop this and the bit just comes right out. And then to put it back in, all you got to do is push it in, and you don't have to touch the collet or anything. So that part's kind of nice. To get it out, you just pull it out, put it in, you just push it in, and it's trapped in there, which is really nice for retaining that tip, especially if it gets stuck in a screw. You can yank it back and it's not going to fall out of there. So for that aspect of it, that's really what I was looking for, was something that would retain the tip, because when these things fall out it's kind of a pain. But anyway, we're gonna give this thing a try real quick on a few different pieces of plastic and see what that torque setting is able to do or not do. Here's some plastic parts for an RC car. And this is ABS plastic, which is fairly hard. We're not going in through a very deep section of it, but what we want to see is if the torque on one is going to kick off before it tries to strip the screw. So at torque 1, it won't drive that screw through the plastic. It's kicking off. So we could bump up the torque here to say 2, which is kind of nice. RC cars are pretty fragile, so on torque 2 we're going to see if we can drive that screw through. So it's definitely going through, and we'll see if Okay, so on Torque 2, it did strip out this plastic, so it's one of those things where you'll have to be mindful of, you know, how much torque you put on something without stripping it out. Sometimes this plastic can be a little challenging when you go to put screws in. You have to be really careful about putting the screw in without stripping it. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to slowly slow it down as we get to the end here. You can kind of feel the torque on the drill without stripping the piece out. So you just have to be real careful when you're putting screws in and out that you don't over tighten things. But with that variable speed, you have a lot of control as to, you know, getting the screw into the depth you want. Whereas these other drills, let's see here. This is another drill that I have used, and it basically is just an on-off, so you just kind of have to toggle it as you go so you don't over-tighten it. There's no sort of variable speed with this. This is just a on-off, so that's kind of a little tricky. So the variable speed is really nice. I like to be able to just give it just a small amount of RPM to do finer detail work. So that's really the two positives on this drill, is the chuck that holds it in there, and then of course the variable speed, and then the forward and reverse is kind of nice. You just a one button push and you back it up and then you go forward. It's easy to get to. The torque is kind of neat as far as there's a digital display for this kind of, you know, price point. These are pretty inexpensive. Normally it would have a torque setting on the end of the drill, like most drills, you know, and you just, you know, twist it as to whatever torque setting you want. But this one has an actual electronic torque, which I think it's one of those things you just kind of get used to. But for my application, it's probably just going to be on one or two to do what I'm going to do. So anyway, we're going to see what this drill is capable of doing and what it's not capable of doing. Sometimes people look at these things and think, oh, I can, you know, build a deck with this, or, you know, do work with it that's maybe outside of its intended purpose. So we're going to just show you driving a couple of screws in some wood and maybe drilling a hole with maybe a drill bit that's really too large. In fact, it even says its capacity is up to 5mm drills. So we'll take a look at that and see what it's actually able to do, just so you know. And this is an 1¼ inch self-tapping drill, so it's got like a little drill bit tip on the end. I suspect it should just go right into this material. We'll set it on 3 and just see what happens here, but it should just drive right in there. And it almost set the screw just about flush, not quite, but it had plenty of torque to drive it in there. So we're going to try a little bit longer screw, and we'll set the torque all the way up to 6. Just, and I suspect it'll drive it all the way in. Now it's set on torque 6. Yeah, and I let off. It was still trying to drive it. That did drive it flush. So here we have a 4-inch deck screw, and just for fun, we're just going to drive this into this solid piece of material. This is a Torx 25 tip, and we'll just see what the drill does. Now, I don't expect it to drive this in here, but just for testing purposes here, we'll see what it does. Actually doing a lot better than I was expecting. that drill drove that thing all the way through that piece of wood. It's actually really, really surprising. I'm actually quite shocked that it drove that screw in there. And that was with no pilot hole or anything. Now, I wouldn't try to drive a whole bunch of this style of screw in there, but it sure went through there as a lot better than I expected. So we're just going to try something else here. This is a 1/4 screw paddle bit. So we'll just give it a try and just see what it does. Now we've got it on setting 6, so that's the most torque it has. That's pretty hard on the drill. Now this style of paddle bit has a screw tip that self-drives the tip into the wood, and you don't have to push on it, but it's extremely difficult on the drill to get it to drive through there. You can hear the drill struggling, but it's still going through, which is honestly pretty shocking. Now it's kind of slowing down, and like I said, this is not really what this drill is for, and I'm actually quite surprised that it's still going. And if you look, it's just barely trying to get through the other side, which is quite shocking. I did not expect it to go through there, honestly. That was very very surprising, honestly. So just for fun, this is 3/8 of an inch. Yeah, it's making slow progress, but the drill's it's going in there. It's pretty surprising. This little drill has got some pretty good torque to it, much more than I was expecting. So we went in about 1.5 inches or so, and the drill temperature is just barely starting to feel like it's getting warmer. It's not hot, it's just barely warm, and we worked it pretty substantially with these types of bits. Now what it's really designed to do is utilize these smaller drill bits for tapping or for pre-piloting a screw, and this should have no problem drilling into this wood with a smaller drill bit, and it goes right in without any issue. In fact, we'll just drop this in just for fun, just to see. That's got a pilot on it, so that screw goes right in without any problem. So when you work these drills outside their capacity, you're probably going to get a really short run time. We've already burned up 1 bar on the battery here. We're down to 3 out of 4. So this one has the variable speed, has the torque settings, and it has that locking tip, which is really what I was looking for. So if you're into models or hobby kind of work, this little Fanttik is a really nice option. It looks a little space age and maybe a little goofy, but it sure feels nice in the hand, and it's easy to get to the controls, and I think it's going to be a great tool to go along with the kind of work I do. So with that, that's the Fanttik, and if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. With that, that's the new drill in our arsenal of drills. And with that, we'll see you next time.